He was a man of power, success, and
This is
respect,
for
a
everything you
black
did.
CEO who had built an
I am
empire from the
innocent.
ground up. Yet on one quiet evening, at the gates of his own mansion, none of that mattered. To the men in uniform guarding his home, he was not the owner. He was not the boss. He was simply a black man they didn't believe belonged there. What followed was more than humiliation, it was a moment that revealed how deep prejudice can cut, even at the highest levels of success. But the way he responded, no one saw coming. By every measure of success, Marcus had made it. A self-made CEO, he had climbed from modest beginnings to the kind of life most people only dream of, leading a thriving company, providing for his family, and living in a mansion that stood as proof of his hard work. Yet beneath the polished boardrooms and luxury cars, Marcus never forgot where he came from or the battles he fought to get here. His evenings were often quiet, driving through the gates of his estate, ready to unwind after long days of decisions and deadlines. To the world, he was the man in charge. But on this night, as he pulled up to his own gate, something shifted. A simple moment of arrival was about to become a test of dignity, identity, and respect. And no amount of success could shield him from what was coming next. Marcus slowed his car as the gates to his mansion came into view. He expected the usual nod, the swift lift of the barrier, and the familiar drive into the comfort of home. But tonight, the guards didn't move. Their eyes followed his car with suspicion, their hands resting on radios as if preparing for trouble. He lowered his window, expecting recognition. Instead, one of them stepped forward, his expression hard. Identification. Marcus frowned. He had lived here for years. His face had been on the cover of magazines, his name etched into the company that employed thousands. Yet in this moment, none of it seemed to matter. He handed over his ID, expecting the misunderstanding to vanish. But the guard barely glanced at it before shaking his head. "This doesn't prove you belong here." Marcus felt a chill rush through him. His name was on the deed. His car carried the estate sticker. His mansion was yards away. Still, he found himself explaining, justifying, as if his very existence required permission. Another guard circled his vehicle, shining a flashlight inside, scrutinizing every detail, his clothes, his briefcase, even the way he sat behind the wheel. Neighbors passed by in their luxury cars, waved through without a question. Yet Marcus remained stalled, humiliated at the gate of the house he had built. Minutes dragged on. Radios crackled. He could hear them debating, doubting, questioning whether this black man could possibly own what he claimed. Rage bubbled in his chest, but he stayed calm, calculating. One wrong move, one flash of anger, and the story would shift, not about injustice, but about a threat neutralized. He knew how quickly perception could twist against him. The humiliation deepened as more guards approached, whispering, glancing, smirking like they had caught an intruder. Marcus's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. He wasn't just being denied entry, he was being stripped of dignity, reduced to suspicion in front of his own home. And then came the breaking point. One guard leaned close to his window, voice low, mocking, "Men like you don't live here. Who are you really?" The words cut deep. Decades of struggle, of sacrifice, of proving himself over and over again, dismissed in an instant. The gate, meant to protect him, had become a barrier keeping him out. Marcus exhaled slowly, steadying his voice. If they wanted proof, he would give them more than they could handle. And when he was done, the balance of power at that gate would never be the same again. The air around the gate grew heavy, every second dragging like a judgment. Marcus sat motionless, the glow of the mansion lights just beyond the barrier, a home he could see but not reach. The guards loomed closer, their tone sharper now, their suspicion louder, their authority swelling with each dismissive glance. One of them tapped on the glass with a flashlight, the sound sharp, commanding, like a summons. "Step out of the vehicle." The words cut through him. Step out. At his own home. His chest tightened as anger and humiliation collided. He had endured countless boardroom slights, subtle dismissals, the quiet racism that hid behind polite smiles. But this was naked. Public. Brutal. Slowly, Marcus opened the door, the night air hitting his face like a slap. He could feel the neighbors' eyes from their balconies, watching silently, their curiosity louder than their voices. The guards circled him, demanding explanations, pressing questions that dripped with disbelief. How could you afford this? Why are you really here? Every answer he gave seemed to vanish into the night, unheard, unwanted. To them, he wasn't Marcus Williams, CEO. He wasn't the man whose name built companies and signed paychecks. He was a suspect. An outsider. A black man who dared to stand on the wrong side of a gate. And then, silence. His gaze locked on the house beyond the gate. His house. His sanctuary. His achievement. A lifetime of sacrifice stood behind that iron barrier, yet he was being treated like a trespasser on his own soil. Marcus's voice finally broke through, calm but thunderous in its weight. Call your supervisor. Now. The guards stiffened. Authority shifted in an instant, the ground beneath them trembling as the balance of power began to crack. They thought they had cornered him. But what they didn't know was that this night, this humiliation, was about to end their careers. The supervisor arrived within minutes, and the truth unraveled just as quickly. The guards' smirks faded, their confidence shattered as Marcus's identity was confirmed beyond question. The man they had mocked, doubted, and humiliated was not a stranger. He was their employer. Their boss. The rightful owner of the very gates they tried to keep him from. And in that moment, the balance of power flipped. Marcus didn't raise his voice, didn't lash out in anger, he didn't need to. With a calm authority sharper than any outburst, he dismissed the entire team on the spot. By the next morning, they were gone. But the damage lingered. Because what stung most was not their disbelief, it was the reminder. The reminder that no matter how much he had achieved, how many barriers he had broken, how many millions he had earned, his skin could still make him invisible in the place he most belonged. Success had not shielded him. Power had not protected him. The truth was raw and undeniable, racism doesn't vanish with status. Marcus walked through his gates that night not just as a CEO, but as a man forced once again to confront the weight of centuries-old prejudice. His story is not an isolated one. It echoes through countless lives, ordinary people, powerful people, young, old, all facing the same ugly question, do I belong here? And that's the tragedy. A man can build empires, yet still be treated as a stranger at his own door. So the question remains, not just for Marcus, but for all of us, how many more gates must be blocked, how many more lives diminished, before dignity is no longer conditional on the color of our skin?